it's cool to know that it's not just Joe Blow civilian or some bad person out there. There are good people actually in the community that are doing this. So, and I'm thankful to have met a lot of great people in this process.
My name's Jason Schaller, and it is my pleasure to welcome Angry Sarge to the show. Now, you may not have heard of Angry Sarge. He's a relatively new content creator, but he's been in the builder community for, well, a while. And he's a super nice guy. We're going to talk about gun building. We're going to talk about military service and a whole bunch of other stuff. Let's talk to Angry Sarge. Sarge, tell me about your love of guns.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Angry Sarge. I'm a new content creator. I'll just say that. Very small YouTube channel. I hit over 100. So if you want to come check me out, I'd definitely appreciate it. But I'm just a dude that kind of fell into this whole, I won't say the whole 2A space, but as far as the content and building and stuff like that, because of something that occurred when I was in the military. I got hurt on a deployment, and I just kind of landed here, met some good people, and I'm here on your channel.
Awesome. And thank you so much for your service. We've talked before, and that's just so awesome. We were talking right before we started recording. You originally started in the National Guard,
Right.
and then 9/11 hit,
Right.
and you went active duty then, right?
Yeah. So the funny thing is I was in what we called AIT, Advanced Individual Training. So kind of like your school after you go through basic combat training. And we weren't even finished yet. I was going through the armor course for 19 Kilo, which is a tanker. I wanted to be a tanker and shoot big guns and stuff like that. But right after the towers fell, I remember my drill sergeants coming in. They're like, "Hey, you guys are going to Afghanistan. You're going to be infantry." And I was like, "Infantry? I didn't sign up for this, right?" And I was like, "All right, I'm good with it, whatever." So that didn't happen, obviously. After that, when I got back to my unit, I just felt a very strong calling to deploy. And I left actually before we invaded Iraq. And when I went active duty, I was stationed at Fort Hood and kind of like the Cavalry life. I was in the 7th Cav. That's where I got I cut my teeth at in combat, was in the 7th Cavalry. So very interesting, very prestige history. I got to meet some pretty solid guys that were at LZ X-Ray, which is from the movie We Were Soldiers. Got to meet General Moore, got to meet Plumley, retired Command Sergeant Major Plumley. Obviously, before they passed.
That's like military royalty right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a very interesting time, especially when you're young and you don't really know anything, and you're coming in, and then the next thing you know, you're watching a movie about your unit that you just came to, because you got to have that history, right?
Yeah.
And then meeting those guys within the next week, and it's like, what? So it was really cool. And then after that, I kind of went to a lot of places, fell in love with some unique units that I worked with, and that's all I wanted to do was go out, serve, deploy, do whatever needs to be done. But I know I got my fill of it, and I came back. When was it? 2008. I just had enough. I spent 4 years just back to back, just going. And
that's tough.
It ruined my first marriage, which was really hard. But I was trying to think, what could I do to continue that purpose and serve? So I joined law enforcement, and that's how I came into that, which led me back into the National Guard, because I couldn't walk away. I had 8 years of service. By that point, you're almost halfway done, so you want to serve and continue that, and that's what I did. I joined the Guard, and started doing more deployments, unfortunately. So,
So, and that's the kind of the nice thing is you took your experience and you moved it over into the civilian world
right,
with law enforcement. So it's kind of like you've got all this training. What do you do with it? And
right,
then you do that, and then you stay in the guard as well. So you kind of get that the best of both worlds,
right,
and then you slowly make that transition over.
right. Yeah, and I mean it was hard because when you go from being somebody that's seen all the things that I've seen during some of the deployments, and losing some people that you're really close to. I mean, it's a hard transition back to civilian life. Like, they don't teach you that when you go through basic training. They tear you down, and now you're built back up to be, a warrior per se. And then when you get out, it's like you don't have that transition. And they try,
Yeah,
and I mean, I've done it. They try, but they just don't hit the mark. But
yeah. I know a lot of people that have served and have come out and have had a hard transition. And one of the things that drives me nuts is that we're really good at spinning wars up.
yeah,
We're really crappy of dealing with the aftermath
yeah,
when everybody's coming back home,
hmm,
right?
yeah,
Because I mean, look, bad stuff happens, right?
right.
And then, we get back and they're like, okay, we have the VA. Well, then I mean, look at the waiting list to get into the VA, right?
I mean, I will tell you, having gone through the process, like, it would disgust people if they saw exactly what I went through as a wounded warrior. Whenever I got hurt on deployment and then came back, and I had to go through the whole medical process to the point where I had to file a congressional to get my benefits turned back on while I was still active duty going through medical. And then them trying to refrat me, which refratting is when they send you back and say, all right, we're done with you. You're good to go. And they send you back to your unit. Well, I still needed emergency surgeries, and I couldn't get medical equipment that I needed, just all these things that just, it's disgusting. And then, you know, I hate to say it, but we had suicides in our unit. Why? Why did a wounded warrior feel like he had to take his life? Because we
Yeah,
don't get treated with respect, and we don't get cared for. They think we're shamming, and that's what a lot of it is you get people that come in that want to take advantage of the system and try to play it, and it hurts the
yeah,
rest of us. I'll say that.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Because there's been people I've talked to. In my day job, I've had several vets that have served that have come back, and I've talked to them. Sometimes they have some problems, and I'm sitting down talking to them like, "Hey, look, man, I know you. I know your personality and stuff. Something's off, right?
mhm,
I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, go get some help, right?
right,
Because I don't want to hear that you're going to be one of the 22 push-ups."
yeah,
I don't want that for you. So, and then, they go off, get some help, and then, it's all good when you come back. I don't care. Um,
yeah,
but then that's the thing is that, anybody that needs help, you know, get it. Don't you're not
yeah.
alone. There's so many people you can talk to.
Yeah, and there's so many services out there, especially if you're a veteran. I mean, Military One Source, call them. They'll
Yeah.
get you taken care of. I promise you that. I've had to use them not for that specific thing, but for other things that I needed help with, and they helped me out. So, I mean, there's programs out there. If you're a Wounded Warrior Project's another good thing. Team RWB is another good one. Um, I would say the VA, but it just depends. Like, it's hit or miss. Like, I'll tell you
Yeah.
this: I have never fought with the VA about anything. Anything. I came back and it was easy. They were like, dude, you're like jacked up. You blew out your hips. You completely, like, I lost feeling in one of my right foot where I completely destroyed that hip, and all this other stuff that happened with it. And they were like, "Yep, 100%. Here you go. No fight." But the army, I fought with them every step of the way, every
Yeah.
step of the way, and it was sad to see that. But even now, with my VA transition, if I need something, it's pretty easy to get it. But I don't. I can say from my dad's perspective, because he's a wounded warrior as well. He's retired military. Um, he's had more problems than I've had, which is crazy because he lives close to a military installation.
Man.
You know, so it's hit or
Yeah.
miss. It
So,
really is.
you come out of the military and you're law enforcement, and you decide to start going into the creator, the firearm creation. I mean, yeah, I mean that's
So,
kind of a weird step, right?
but not really. I mean, think about it. I've been around firearms since
True.
I was 18. We'll just say 18 years old. Um, I'm shooting fully automatic weapons and 3-round burst, through the military, and M9 pistol, the Beretta. So all these different things kind of led into that. And coming from a state that was very prohibited against firearms to a free state, it's night and day. I was like, oh, I can own firearms. I got it. I'm just buying everything I can get. So no, so I'll tell you the little story behind that. Whenever I got hurt, this was back in 2018, December timeframe. I was medevac back, and when I came back, I was on post for about 6, 8 months while they were trying to get me set up with community care so I can go back home. Right. So when I got back home, I didn't feel a purpose anymore. Like, I was still going through all my medical stuff, and I was like, what do I do after service? I know I still have a job civilian wise because I still work for said agency, but um, how do I fill that void that I'm having? Because I'm sitting here, I went to school, I got my master's degree in a year because
Wow.
I had to do something. So it was either
Yeah.
me intern somewhere or go to school. And I was like, just send me to school. I'll get my master's degree and then kind of push on from there. But I needed something to keep me busy. And then I was searching on YouTube. Who pops up? MGB.
Yeah.
And then bam, I just went down a rabbit hole and started
Yeah.
building and all that stuff. And I mean, I enjoy it. And it's funny because everybody's like, well, these are being used in crimes and stuff. And I was like, I haven't seen one. And the only time that I did see one, someone called me and was like, hey, what do you think about this? Is this legit? And I was like, yeah, that's an actual P80 because it wasn't serialized. So, but it wasn't used in a crime. It was just taken off somebody who wasn't allowed to own weapons. So, I mean, it is a crime, but it wasn't
It's
used in a crime.
it's not it's not like you pulled it off a gangster doing
Yeah.
drive-bys, and
No. No,
and it's funny that you
it
found
was on
MGB.
it was on an 18-year-old. So
Yeah. So it's funny that you found MGB, because that's actually how the two of us met a month
yeah,
ago,
yeah,
right? I mean, we were joking around offline, like, we know all the same people, but
yeah,
we never, like, our paths never crossed
right.
until like a month ago. And it's funny because I started going down the whole Polymer 80 route. And it's funny because I was talking to him a week ago. We were kind of joking around about this because, I had my channel before he had his. And then someone was watching one of my videos. He's like, don't do that. Well, go watch MGB. And like, you're going to screw this thing up. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, if you look at the date of this video, it's before he even had a channel.
Right.
Because when he came up, I started watching his videos. I'm like, oh, screw it, I'm not doing Polymer 80 videos anymore. This
Yeah.
this this guy's got it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, his content's like the best out there. So
Right.
he can carry that torch, no problem. And I'll send people to, I was sending people to his videos like, hey man, you want, go watch his stuff. He's gonna steer you straight. And
Right.
but yeah, he brought so many people into gun making. It's not even funny.
Yeah. I mean, even from, we'll just say my two jobs that I was doing, um, I was pushing people over to him, deputies and just police officers and then military dudes. I was like, you need to do this. This is awesome. This is fantastic. So um, it's cool to know that it's not just Joe Blow civilian or some bad person out there. There are good people actually in the community that are doing this. So and I'm thankful to have met a lot of great people in this process.
Yeah, it's just it's so great. I love hearing stories about people coming into the homemade gun building because I was an FFL, so I was working on guns, and then
Right.
I started working through my first build was 1911. So I
Okay.
went you know, usually people start at the Palmer 80,
Yeah.
work their way to the MUP one, then eventually did 9 millimeter, maybe, or not the 1911,
Yeah.
maybe. I went like right to the 1911. Um, because at the time that was Mosin Virus was
Okay.
doing all the 1911 stuff. And I remember watching one of his videos going, oh crap, I got to do that. Right?
Right.
I just have to do. I understand. I work on guns and everything, but I had to do this.
Yep.
And it was funny. I was talking to my mom, it was right over the holidays, and she was like talking about you know, the news about ghost guns and all this stuff. I'm like,
Mm.
oh, let me tell you what this is, right? And she's like, well, why do this? I'm like, a sense of accomplishment, sense of pride. When I do something, uh, I have a 1911 right here that I've been working on for a couple of years. I did the hand checkering of the front strap, and I did it by hand. I dehorned the slide. I did all this work to it, and I'm explaining what I did to it. And she's like, "Well, how much time do you have into that gun?" And I'm like, "Probably about 100 hours."
Hmm.
And
A lot of
and
time.
it's a lot of time. And she's like, "Well, why?" I'm like, "Because it's completely unique. It's unique to me. It's what I wanted. My slide to frame fit is exactly the way I want it.
Yeah.
And it's just that's going to be mine, and it's going to it's a gun that's going to compete with a $5,000 Kimber."
Okay.
Um,
Well, I mean,
so,
you did everything by hand, the fitting and
yep,
all that stuff. So it's just like the Polymer 80. That's why I like it, is because it's mine. And I know it's going to run every time. It's fit just the way
exactly.
I like it. So, yeah, I get
And
it.
and that's why I love people coming into this because they're looking at this. Look, it's a piece of machinery. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a
It's a
piece of
tool.
machinery. It's a tool,
Yeah.
exactly. And then you start learning, like, okay, well, if you don't, cut this out of a polymer 80, your spring is going to rub, right?
Right. Hmm.
And it's going to screw up your cycling.
Yeah.
And then, you start learning about this tool,
Right.
about, hey, look, this is just not, you don't just go in and just start, doing crap to it.
Hmm.
you know you you got to understand exactly what you're doing. Yes, you're going to cut here, you're going to cut these off, right?
Right.
um and then you listen to MGB talk about this stuff, and he's like, okay, I can take a knife off and just cut this thing off, but he's like, no, 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 yeah, you can do that, but we're going to
Yeah.
make it look perfect.
Yep. Like it came off
you
the
know
factory floor.
Exactly, and that's why I love seeing these builds come out, because
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Well, it's a polymer 80. Everybody's doing a polymer 80." I'm like, but not every polymer 80 is the same.
Yeah.
It all depends on what the person has done to it. And then, people are going through and going, okay, well, I'm not, I built this Polymer 80, but I don't like the grips, which kind of leads into stippling, which is, well, you're kind
Yeah.
of your wheelhouse there.
I mean, I do a little bit.
A little bit. Like, I mean, I saw a picture on your Instagram, with I think it was your Instagram, where it's like your first stippling job. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, this is my first stippling job, and everybody's like, yeah, dude, that's like freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's trash, but we're always our own worst
We're always our
critic.
hard,
Yeah,
yeah, we're always our worst critic, yeah,
it's true. But you know what the funny thing is I was always into modifying firearms prior to this whole thing. So that's what kind of made it even better and made me want to join more and do it, was because I'm a weirdo. I'm not going to lie to you. And it's because I'm left eye
we all are.
dominant, right? Left eye dominant. So whenever I shoot my rifle, I have to shoot it left hand. Even though I'm right handed, I shoot my pistol with my right hand and my rifle with my left hand. So I had to learn that. And it was funny because when you go back in time, I remember when I was shooting right handed with the rifle and I couldn't hit anything in basic. So me and the drill sergeant, we were just going back, and he was like, "Oh, you can't shoot a rifle. You're an idiot. And how do you miss? And this and that." And then come to find out, I was left eye dominant. And then learning, especially like CQB and stuff like that, especially like first deployment in Iraq, where I'm carrying a 20-inch M16A2, that big long thing, and trying to clear houses and putting the butt stock over my shoulder and using my thumb as the front sight, just all these different things that I learned, and then modifying. Like my SWAT rifle was modified by me, all ambi parts. I put them on myself because the armor was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And I'm like, "Okay, are we going to get me a left-handed rifle? Stag arms,
Yeah,
something."
stag arms.
And they didn't want to do that, so they were just like, "Here you go, do what you got to do." And I just did it myself because I was already doing it before.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of just preempted me into the whole building process. So I may not have known what I was doing to actually build it until I saw MGB, and I will tell you, I creeped that forum that he had for about 3 months. But I was a VIP from the gate. So as soon as I found the forum, I paid for the VIP because I wanted to know what was going on, if there was any inside information or something like that. So I paid for it right out the gate. And then I just stepped back and I just watched everybody having all these problems. And guess what didn't happen with mine? Their problems.
Yeah.
Because I saw the fixes and all that stuff. So whenever I built my first one, it was like I knew what I was doing the whole time. So
it's funny. I got this vision right now, right? Because I'm thinking about the whole left eye dominant, shooting the rifle left handed. You shoot your pistol right hand. You're the only person that I know that could dual wield a rifle and a pistol at the same time.
I can. I mean, I think about transitions, and I'll go into this with my own channel as far as training and stuff like that, because I think it really does add value to those people that are weird like me, because I know I'm not the only one. But transition wise, I could be up on the gun, bringing it down, and then drawing pistol and doing what I got to do with one hand. I don't have to worry about it. So
because like for somebody like me with that's right eye dominant, I have my rifle, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to put my rifle down in order to draw my pistol.
Yeah, you'll have to grab with the other hand and stow it while you're drawing. So that's just training. You'll get fast at that too.
But it's just funny. I didn't even think of
Siri. Jeez.
Siri spying on you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even think about transitions. It's just so weird. Sorry, I just got this vision of you with your mask, dual wielding a rifle and a pistol at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's it has saved my life on countless occasions. I'll say that. Because not only have I been to combat, but I've also done it in real time in the States here. I was ambushed. Um, I actually talked about it on an interview with DoD After Dark, that I was ambushed on a call that um, we're going to do pretty much a stop calling, because we had been out there 4 times, and I rolled up to my deputy. I was supervisor, and I was like, "Hey, need to tell this guy to stop calling, and we're gonna take him to jail." And as soon as I got there, he's letting off rounds. So
God.
yeah, but I mean, you learn. I'm telling you, the training. That's the biggest key with me, like purpose. And I'm sure people are going to find out that more, but I'm big about purpose. Like if you're going to ask me a question, I'm gonna be like, okay, why? What's your purpose behind it? And then I can help you understand maybe a better way to figure out what you're doing, or, kind of move from there. How to pick your gear. What's your purpose? Are you doing just flat range, or are you planning on being an assaulter because you're going to join the military and go special forces or something, things like that.
It's funny because what's going through my mind right now is, I'm very not tactical, right? It's just
okay.
not me. And well, I had Ghost Tactical is a friend of mine,
Right.
And I remember being on his podcast one time, and they were talking about plate carriers and stuff like that, and they're like, "Hey, what do you think?" I go, "Yeah, that's just not me." He's just like, and he stops and he's sitting there and he goes, "I'm trying to visualize you in a plate carrier, and it just doesn't work." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you're just not gonna
as long as it
running.
fits,
yeah,
and it goes, we're good."
It's just like, I'm asking me what plates and what plate carriers dude, I don't have one, right? That's just not me. But I think it's cool as crap. But when I start thinking about with gear and stuff, where people just go out and buy crap, right?
Well,
I
a lot of
I want to look cool, right?
That's it. I want to wear what Grand Thumb's wearing.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you need that? I mean, do you need to waste the money? Like, look at this. This is just my show carrier. This is a minimalist from LA Police gear. I don't care. I'm not trying to stop any rounds. I'm just on a show. It's part of my little thing. But even then, do you see me buying Cry or Spiritus or anything like that? No. If I need it for deployment, possibly, yes. But I've got decent stuff that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It works. I've used it on deployments. I know it's proven gear. So it just, people get caught up in that. I want to look like Travis Haley or Grand Thumb or all these Instagram influencers and all that stuff, that have the GP MVGs with the panos and, what I'm saying? You don't need that. Why do you want to spend $30,000? Spend, half that and get a full setup.
Yeah. And it'll work for you. And that's the thing, is people just, they don't know. They want to be that tactical. They want to look at, they want the look, but they don't think. So they're going to do one of two things. They're going to go crazy here or crazy here.
Yep. And then they're going to forget
world between.
Yeah. They're going to forget that middle piece, where now that you've got whatever, even a firearm, as soon as you get a firearm, why aren't you training?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you just going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, this gun's going to save my life because I got a gun"? Okay.
Well,
good luck.
Okay. You're military and law enforcement, so you understand the concept of, in stress, we don't resort to our highest mastery of a subject. We resort to our lowest mastery of that subject. Yeah. So the more training you do, you're raising that bottom bar, because, I mean, let's face it, the average person, I'm going to go buy a gun and that's going to save my life. No, that's the tool.
Yeah.
You have to have another tool called training.
Yeah. You got to have a holster, training. Yeah. Exactly what you're saying. There's so much more to it.
It's not a tool, it's a system, right? You have multiple tools, right? You have the gun, you have the ammo, you have the training. Them together is the system that will save your life. Not,
Right.
I think about over the past few years, we hear about, there's 5 million new gun. I hate the statistics because really there's probably more or less, whatever.
Yeah.
But you hear about all these 5 million new gun owners. They bought their first time gun during a time where firearms were hard to get and ammo was
Hmm.
damn near impossible,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So they bought their gun and their token 1 box of ammo. Hey, look, I'm happy. Welcome to the club.
Yep.
What are you going to do next, right? I mean, ammo is expensive. Dry fire, at
Cert
least.
pistol, Menace
Yeah,
Blackbeard.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
I love my
I got the
Blackbeard.
I got the Blackbeard X now.
Oh, nice.
Um,
That's a good one.
yeah, I got the Blackbeard now. I got the Blackbeard X, and now I don't have to run my X10 on my rifle at the same time. But
Right.
yeah, Blackbeard is awesome. I mean, you want to learn how to use an AR.
Hmm.
That's gonna help you.
Yep.
There's so many things out now to get that training.
Yeah.
I've got two bad knees. I got at least one knee replacement in my near future.
Right.
So my morning when I wake up, I mean, this is on top of all the other injuries I have, but I have an hour of physical therapy every day when I wake
Right.
up. Well, and I got to do these things where I got to do like these side steps and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's boring as shit.
Oh, of course.
But there's a target right on that wall.
Yeah.
I
mean,
got, yeah.
see
There
mine?
you go. Yeah. Yep.
That's what I do. So I'll get up in the morning, work out, and then I'll come out to the garage and grab both my pistol and my rifle and just run drills.
Yeah. And there's no excuses anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go into, like the Mantis Laser Academy, there's drills in there.
Hmm.
Um, there's so many places you can get that. Now, yes, it's not. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, hey, look, dry fire is not a replacement for live fire because
Hmm.
you still got to learn recoil management and stuff like that.
Yep.
But it's better than just taking that gun, putting it in a drawer, and never touching it again.
Yeah. And I will say this, the one thing that has kept me on top of my game. So we went through, this whole last couple year issue, right? Couldn't get ammo, all that stuff. Just kept my ammo as much as I could, right? So I didn't really shoot a whole lot. But when I went out to requal to get back on duty, it was like I never left. Why? Because I'm out here dry firing. I'm keeping
Yep.
those fundamentals because once you get the fundamentals down and you understand your grip and how important that is and your trigger press, and it's natural after that. And that's why I work my way up. I actually, when I train people, I will bring out my Beretta 92 and let them pull that 12-pound pull every
Yeah.
time. Decock, you're going to fire every round with that 12-pound because it's going to teach you that trigger discipline and how to actuate that trigger correctly. And then, you think about it. If you're running 9 mil, say that's what your carry is, get you a 22.
Yeah.
22 is cheaper. Go
Yep.
shoot with that, get the practice on it, and then turn around and start moving up. That's how I did it. I run 22, 9 mil, whether that's in a pistol or my MPX, and then I go to 22 for the rifle, and then I go MPX again or something like that in those combinations, and then 223. So I may shoot only 50 rounds of 223 5.56 whenever I'm at the range. And that's just to verify that the training that I did prior to that worked.
Yep.
I was doing what I was supposed to do. So, I mean, yeah, there's so many ways around it. Dry firing is perfect. And who is it? T-Rex Arms. He brought that kid from, what was it, Japan?
Yeah.
That just
Yep.
did airsoft only. And he came
Yep.
and tore down the range. Why? Because he was practicing good habits.
Well, and that's the thing, because I started playing with airsoft too, right? So for me, for competition, I shoot a SIG P320 X5.
Okay.
So I went out and bought an M17 airsoft,
Okay.
right? So the M17 is, technically the X5. It's, slight
Minus the
differences,
grip
but
mod. Yeah.
yeah, minus the grip. But it's basically the same. It's still the same. Yes, the trigger's not the same, but I can still work a drill with
Okay.
that gun, right? And then for me, for competition shooting, it's plates and Texas Stars and stuff like that. Well, I have airsoft targets. Now,
Okay.
yes, they're, my Texas Star, the plates are like this big. I get it. It's not the same, but I'm
But your
shooting in my
aim,
garage.
yeah, but you're aiming small and missing small too.
Exactly.
So
So I can still work the concept,
mhm.
right? Now, when I can do that in the wintertime, I'm up here in Montana, so we have fire season where
Yeah.
there's times we literally can't go out shooting because we'll spark off a fire.
Right.
So when that happens, I just go shoot some airsoft in my
Mhm.
garage, work the drill, right? Work something out, and then when I go out and do my live fire, awesome. I can still work through those things. You have cool fire. I
Yeah.
mean, you have a cool fire. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's expensive,
Yeah.
but I mean, how many rounds through a cool fire do you have to shoot before 9mm pays off? Especially 9mm is what, 40 cents a round now.
Exactly.
When
Yeah.
9mm was 9 cents a round, we didn't really care.
Oh yeah. I miss those days back before I
Yeah.
deployed. Getting, I was getting a case of gecko for $1.50 and then ship.
God, that's
You
awesome.
know.
I miss
Yeah.
those days.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. That's why I have so much ammunition, because whenever I seen it, and gecko wasn't really a big round back then either. So
Well,
I was like, all right, if it fires, I'll take it out there and run it and just use it for range ammo. And sure enough, man, it's always functioned for me. So, but yeah, you're right, and that's the great thing about you transferring those skill sets that you've learned from doing competition to your daily training and stuff like that. That's going to help keep you sharp.
yeah. I mean, and that's the whole thing is, for me, I carry a gun, right? That's it goes back to that whole thing of, hey, look, if you're going to carry a tool, you need to know how to use the tool.
Yep.
And we see these people like, okay, I got my concealed carry permit. I'm gonna put my gun on. Awesome. Well, hey, look, I got a hoodie on, right?
Yep.
Well, how am I going to get to my gun with a hoodie on and pull, right?
Yep.
Have you even done that, right? You put it. Have you even tried to draw with cover on, or have you even worked on your holster draw,
Right.
right? Um,
Yeah.
and that dry fire is great for that, right?
Right. I
I mean,
agree.
get, getting that first round off is the hardest one, right? Because you've got so many things. Your draw, push out. You got all of those mechanics working. Work the drill, right?
Yeah.
Learn it, and and you get into, okay. I want to practice, but I go to an indoor range and I can't draw from a holster.
Some, yeah.
Dry fire at home.
Yep.
Dry fire at
That's
home.
exactly what I do. If I'm going to work holster drills, and I know that, say, right now it's nice out, so I could go to a range, right?
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't wear short sleeves because it is just tiny bit cold out here, but not that much. But anyhow, if I know I'm going to go to an indoor range and I know they don't have a private lane where you can't draw from the holster, especially using my credentials or whatever, um, I will just practice those drills at the house. And then when I go to the range, I'll just make up that time doing fundamentals, just working on the fundamentals. That's it.
Yeah.
Getting the reps in, because that's important. Like making sure I'm doing my reloads, making sure that I'm doing the basic checks and make sure my firearms running right. just those are the things that I look at whenever I go to a range where I can't practice movement or drawing from the holster or things like that I know normally I would do. So
See, and that's practicing movement.
yeah,
So for me, I was a static shooter. I mean, I've been shooting for almost 42 years now, because I started shooting when I was 7.
yeah,
It was all static shooting all the way up. Even when I started going into competition, when I turned 21, I started shooting competition with pistols, and
hmm
but it was still static competition. It wasn't until later when I started doing IDPA, IPSC, and that type of stuff
yeah,
where you're starting to deal with movement. Um, Movement's a very it's hard to get. If you haven't done it, it's hard to get your feet moving in the same direction while you're reloading and still trying to pay attention to your next target.
yeah,
Um, I mean, this is definitely a perishable skill.
yeah. I mean, you're using a lot of this,
Yeah,
especially when you start doing it for the first time. You're just like, okay, which leg do I step with? How do I lead
yeah.
this? And then why am I fumbling magazines while I'm moving? Because I can't get my hand to want to do what it needs to do. So yeah.
It's the whole chewing bubble gum, patting your
hmm
head, rubbing your belly at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got there's a lot of mechanics going on.
Yeah.
And then we start talking about, okay, going back to, okay, have you drawn from a holster? You're going to carry a gun. Have you drawn from a holster? Do you carry an extra mag? Yeah. Okay, cool. Have you practiced reloading?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you might. Yeah. Again, got a hoodie. Now I got this thing. You need to start working
Yeah.
through all of these things. And the more that you have those basics down, the less you have to worry about at that
Yeah.
point. Because
And
this
it
is
go
all muscle. This is muscle memory now.
yeah, it goes back to the rule of 10,000. It takes 10,000 reps to really seat that one function. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot. That's why, usually before I go to work and stuff, I will get some reps in. How am I doing that? I'm getting the firearm out. It's clear. Check it. All right. I'll holster it up. I'll bring it out. Admin reload. Back, press check. Good to go. Holster up. So those are little things that I do. One, because I want to make sure that a round went in because I'm getting ready to go on duty.
Yep.
Because sometimes you can skip right over it. I mean, because the magazine wasn't seated all the way. I've had that happen once. So I don't do that again, you know? So little things like that where you're just getting reps. And then when I come home, it's the exact backwards thing. Out,
Yeah.
unload, clear, press out, all those little things that you're doing and getting those reps in.
It's funny. I was just thinking about that when you're talking about the magazine not seated. I remember one time shooting in a competition. All right, load and make ready.
Mm-hmm.
Right, holster, buzzer goes off, bang, magazine
Drop.
falls out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just looked like an ass in front of my entire squad.
Didn't you post that or
Did I
repost
post it?
that?
No, there was no cameras running when that
Okay.
happened. Thank God.
I think I saw somebody post that and I was laughing about that. I was like, I could see
I've been
that happening to me. And I wasn't laughing at them. I was laughing with them because I'm sure
yeah.
they were watching it like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, and you're just sitting there, you're like, and at that point, it's like, all right, well, I got to pull another mag out, and I still got to shoot, right?
Yeah.
And but your concentration is so broken
Yeah.
because you missed just a minor thing. I just did not press that mag in just a little bit tighter; it would have not have happened,
Right.
right? I mean, I'm now load and make ready. I'm to the point where I put my mag in, and then I'll like pull it
Check
just to make sure
it.
because that happened.
Right. No, I get it. I
Um,
understand it.
so when you do a lot of training, what's like when you train other people, what do you see like the most common mistake people make?
I think the biggest mistake that I've seen is people giving them bad advice. just from the get-go. That's probably the most common thing that I run into is they've gotten bad advice and then trying to break them of a bad habit. I mean, it happened a couple months ago. I was on the range, just I was doing some footage for what was it? I was running my Glock 48 and I did some stuff for Instagram and put that on there. But I was out there and a guy was having problems with trying to work his firearm as far as shooting. He couldn't get good, even a good first shot or even a follow up shot. It was just terrible. But the RSO was trying to help him, and he's like a retired law enforcement guy, but retired from back in the day, retired. And he's showing well, he was doing that. I'm not gonna lie to you at first, but it wasn't because of the RSO. The RSO tried to fix it, but this guy. Let me tell you the thing that bothered me is this guy was charged with being church security. So I'm thinking to myself, like, if something bad happens and he's using all these bad habits and these bad techniques that someone else is showing him because he doesn't know any better, and it's their main instructor for the church security team showing him all these bad habits, like, what good is he going to do when something really messed up happens and he's having to draw his gun and he can't even get a shot on target the first round? Like, that's how you win a gunfight. Whoever hits the first round on target wins. And I mean, I know that because I've been through it. And sometimes, you won't knock them down or anything like that, but that's where those follow-up shots are important. The shot placement, all that stuff matters. But like trying to I want to cuss, but I'm not going to.
I know.
Trying to get all that out of his head was it was crazy. But within that 10, 15 minutes, I showed him the tips and tricks because he didn't know he was left eye dominant. And I found that out right away. Boom, done. Got him fixed, got him moved over. Yeah, got him moved over, adjusted. He's good to go because he's shooting right-handed, but over his right eye. So he can't even see the target, and that's why he's not doing very well. And then I adjusted his grip, showed him what the proper grip was, show him how if you just clamp down like this, you don't have to squeeze. You just put that inward pressure, and that's what helps control that recoil. And just little things like that, just little tips and tricks. He walked away and he was shooting so much better after 15 minutes. So, but that's the typical thing is bad advice.
It's funny because I had a customer one time that bought a rifle for his daughter because it's going to be her first hunting rifle.
Right.
And I'd done transfers for him, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to buy I want to buy a left-handed gun." I'm like, "You're not left-handed," and he's like, "Yeah, it's for my daughter." And I'm like, "Okay." So he picked it up, and then the next transfer I did for him, I'm like, "Well, how did that work?" He goes, "Man, I tried teaching her how to shoot. I found somebody who was left-handed to teach her how to shoot because I'm a right-handed person trying to work a bolt, and it doesn't translate." I'm like, "Good for you for realizing that was going to be a problem, right? Yeah. That you went out and found somebody who is left-handed to teach them how to shoot, because that's a thing."
Yeah.
That's a serious thing. How do you explain to a left-handed shooter how to shoot when you're explaining everything right and then trying to reverse it in your head? It doesn't work.
That's the benefit of me is I can still run everything like you can.
Yeah.
The whole right setup, I can still run. Even the bolt, I'll keep it right because I have this fancy little hand over here working the bolt, and I can stay on the trigger if I need to. So, I mean, it works out, but you're right. Like, if I had to teach somebody how to shoot left-handed, thank God I can shoot left-handed. I am ambi as far as pistol goes, but I've trained myself to be that way because I'm always of the thought that, God forbid, my right takes a hit in the middle of a firefight or something like that. I got to switch over and run my left. So,
because you can't go like, "Hey, timeout." You gotta. I mean, and that's the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the other thing. Like what what I try to do with dry fire is I try to work support hand, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll sit there and put my hand on my chest, and it's like okay, and that's a thing,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we have to shoot it for quals. So you have to know how to shoot that firearm with the other hand.
Yeah.
You have to. It's
And
just,
it's like
you never
you
know.
start going through how am I, and then if this hand goes down, how am I going to reload that gun?
Yeah.
Right? I got one hand.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to reload it? And that's
Yep.
when you learn sights on the belt. You know.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. No.
And then
It's
putting
like
the mag behind your knee and stuff like there's
yeah.
so many ways that you can do it. I mean, it's a pain in the butt, but you've got to train those things for that what if.
Yeah. Because you don't want to learn. You don't want to learn when bullets are flying.
Mm-mm.
That's
No.
not going to be a good outcome.
And the other thing too that I teach is like not all of us are gunfighters, right?
Right.
Not all of us are gunfighters. Just because you carry a gun and you think that, okay, I'm going to get into a shooting, I'm going to be the guy that saves the day or girl or whatever. That's not always the case. I mean, you might be a better asset pushing back.
Yep.
Maybe if it's an active shooter, I mean, I hope the right people step up and do what needs to be done, but not everybody's going to fill that role because they're not mentally ready to handle that. And for you to put yourself in that situation or force yourself into that situation when you're not that person is making you a liability at that point.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because for me, I've shot how many hundred thousands of rounds, right? I'm a competition shooter. Not so much lately, but I've trained to be a shooter. I know how to draw. I know how to shoot. I know how to do weekend. I know all this stuff. Right. But that's completely different when I'm talking about steel and paper.
Yeah.
Right. I have skills, but those targets are not sending something back at me.
Right. It's different when it's a two-way range. 100%
yeah, exactly.
different.
So, and those are the things that go through my head. I think about this stuff. I train and all that stuff. That is for my protection and the protection in my immediate area, right? Because this is going to be my sphere of influence right here, right? So once I'm outside of my sphere of influence, that's my sphere of concern over there. At that point, I know I should be retreating, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should always want to avoid a gunfight.
Exactly.
Always. That should be your thing is, especially if you're with your family. I'm going to tell you this, my family, I'm going to make sure my family's out. And then I'm going to go handle business because that's just the mindset that I have. And, I'm sure somebody may see this and think, oh, okay, whatever. But I mean, it's not me trying to brag or anything like that, but I've been in those situations and I know how I act. I go quiet. I don't say anything, and I just go to work. That's all I think about.
Well, that's your training. That's what you've been trained to do. But yeah, no, it's because I that's the thing I really hate. There's certain things about this industry that I hate. Like, you hear of these people, out of my dead cold hands, right? You're going to get this gun out of my dead cold hands. And I'm sitting there going, 90% of you guys will be on your knees, with your gun in front of you. Right.
And I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't like to talk about people or make them feel lesser than me or anything like that. I just feel like I'm just a regular dude. Even if somebody's like, oh, well, you're trained and you've done this. Like, I don't feel that way. I just feel like I put my pants on the same way as you do. One leg at a time. Like, there's nothing different about me. Yeah, I've had training, but that doesn't make me any different. But on the offhand is anybody can hide behind something and say something, right? Yeah. They can. Yeah. Just like me, they could say, oh, well, you're hiding behind a mask. Well, there is kind of a reason why I'm behind a mask. this is what I prefer, but I'm not coming out here running my mouth and all that stuff. It's just a mentality thing is what I run into, especially now being in here. And I just try to be humble, and I try to transfer knowledge, and that's my key thing. If I can give you something of value that you can take with you that may either save your life or make your life better, make your training better, that's what I want to do.
See, and that's the thing. As you're talking about this thing, I'm going through. I've been through management and stuff like that. You're a servant leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're trying to transition. You're not saying do this. You're going. This is how you do it. You're showing. You're going through things
Right.
because you're trying to impart knowledge.
Yeah.
This is how my training has given me this. This is now I'm giving it to you, so that way you can serve yourself. And yeah,
Yeah.
you're not trying to be a drill instructor. You're not a DI, right?
No, not at all. And I mean, it just comes down to the fact that I know doing the jobs that I've done, let's just be realistic here. Somebody breaks into your house. How long is it going to take for somebody to get there?
My house. Uh, so let's assume midnight, okay, or
Yeah.
early in the morning.
Yeah.
The response time to my house would probably be 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. So I'll say where I live, it might be 5 to 7 minutes, depending. Now, having worked in a county that is 908 square miles, that you're patrolling 300 and something miles by yourself, and then being involved in a shooting like I was, how long do you think it took for the first unit to get to me out in the county?
Well, probably not that. Probably not as long. Well, it
Well,
depends.
it
Well,
took
it depends.
yeah, it took the closest city unit 8 minutes to get on scene. By that point, I've already cleared the house. I've already
Yeah.
requested a life flight so we can get the spouse out because she was shot in the face. And I've already taken the guys into custody at this point
Yeah.
because my partner jumped in his vehicle and hid while I was in the middle of this ordeal, which is fine. Like I said, not everybody's meant to do that. And I'm
Yeah.
never going to talk about him poorly or anything like that. That was just his mentality. He's not from the same type of uh, mindset, I guess, as I am. But like I said, you are your own protector. For those
Yes.
however many minutes it takes for law enforcement to get there, you have to be confident, you have to be trained, and you have to know what to do, how to get your family, especially if they're spread out all over the house. Like
Yep.
us is upstairs and downstairs. Well, I've got to get the kids from upstairs down or push up so I have the advantage and
Yeah.
cover a stairwell because that is the worst place. If you come to my house, the worst place to be is in that stairwell because I'm going to put a lot of hate and discontent that way.
It's
You
a,
know,
it's a, yeah, it's a choke
it's a
box. So I mean,
yeah,
it's a
it's a
choke point.
choke point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm gonna use everything that I know because you're on my turf now. You know,
Yeah. No,
so that's what I'm saying. It all comes down to understanding that once you get the firearm, get the training, look for like legitimate people. Don't just trust everybody on the internet because, like I said, people are going to give you bad advice. They're going to give you poor advice. And that's the hard part is trying to filter out all that stuff. And like dudes like me that are all running around, well, I I train people and I do this and I do that and I've done that. Like who cares? The whole point is, are you going to provide something of value to me that I can take with me and either test it to see if it works
yeah.
or use it to protect myself and my family? That's the most important thing.
Because, and that's the thing that I like about training. So, for here, Montana went permitless carry. Okay, so we don't need a permit to carry here. My wife and I, we have permits to carry. You can still get permits to carry. It unlocks
Mm-hmm.
a couple of other places that we can carry.
Right.
Um, there's no retraining requirement. Okay.
Right.
But my wife and I, we will like every 2 to 3 years, we will take a class, right?
Hmm.
And we will take it from another instructor.
Yeah.
So, when we took our first class, it was he was retired highway patrol here. Man, when I took that class, I'm looking at this guy going, "There's no way in hell this guy's a cop, right?" He's
Right.
kind of he's kind of goofy and kind of happy, and I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, well, yeah, were you dispatch, and all that stuff." And he taught his class different, so it wasn't like a 1 day thing. He's like, it was 6 days. You had classroom training for 2 hours, on a Wednesday night, and next Wednesday night you had 2 hours. Till finally you worked up the range day.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this guy, okay, he's got it. And then he starts talking about, he starts explaining, why do cops yell? And we're like, they're like, we're trying to get you out of a mental state, right? And I'm like, okay, I get that. And then he opens his mouth up. I'm like, oh shit, that's the cop, right?
Hmm.
And he starts, he starts teaching us things that you don't get out of, you go to concealed carry class. It's like 2 hours of talking, and then it's like, let's go shoot some rounds.
Yeah.
This guy is actually teaching you a class. Then he's going to teach you to shoot.
Yeah.
I learned so much from that guy. He set that bar so high for every instructor that has ever come after him.
Right.
And I will tell you, I have yet to find an instructor that I've been to that has met that high bar.
Right.
I had an instructor. My wife and I went to another class, and this guy was he was a law enforcement academy instructor for another state.
Hmm.
Like, okay, cool. Well, hey, we had good luck with this guy. He was a cop. Okay, I will tell you that was one of the worst classes I ever went through.
Yeah.
Because he did his token 2 hours of instruction. Okay, now everybody put a magazine in, rack the slide, put it in your holster. You're now all armed. Okay. Now we're going to go over to
Appreciate
the bay.
that.
What's that?
I said, appreciate that info.
Yeah. And then we're like, okay, so now we're going to go over to the bay. And he had, I think, 30 students in this class, right? Now, when we're in the bay, we are just about shoulder to shoulder trying to work guns, right?
Right.
Trying to do the drills. My wife is a cross draw. So she's on the far left.
Okay.
I'm right next to her, and I'm like getting shells from her. The guy next to me is getting shells out of my gun. It's kind of really miserable. And then he's also not paying attention to, I understand he's trying to get everybody's gun to run dry so we work through reloads.
Right.
But, I'm sitting here shooting a SIG 229. I have, 14 rounds in my gun. My wife's shooting a Beretta 85, which has 8 rounds.
Yeah.
Guy next to me is running a 1911, and
So it's just random.
It's just random when you're going to run out, right?
Yeah.
So he runs. My wife's going to run out of ammo. She's going to reload twice as fast as twice as much as I am.
Right.
Well, then, so finally he runs her out of all of her mags, and she's just standing there. And then, I'm still shooting because and the guy next to me, he's running out. And then finally you get to the point where people just start walking off the firing line.
Right.
Because they gotta go reload their mags.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the problem we had is he was stuck on some like teenager that's in the middle of the line. And he's not paying attention to his class.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is not good. This is not good. And then he's like yelling at people for like walking away. We're like, dude, we're out of ammo.
I mean, you could have, could have said it, when you're done, go reload. I mean, but besides that, it would have been a lot easier if you're like, okay, what's your round count? What's your round count? What's your round count? All right, we're going to go 7. 7 in your mag, practice those
Yep.
reloads, and then go back. I mean, it's not that
Yeah.
difficult. But
No.
like I said, it goes back to you don't just because they're a professional, and I
Yep.
use that term
Exactly.
loosely, okay?
Yep.
It doesn't mean that they're always going to be the best teacher for what you're looking for. But I will
Exactly.
say, I've been to some terrible classes, but I did learn something from them. I took away
Yep.
something from every class that I've been to, and even my repeat classes that I've done, because I've done a lot of repeat classes. I learned something new, and that's the cool thing about being a student and really like getting the why behind. That's me. I'm big about the why. What's the purpose of this? Why is it important? Those kind of things, because then it helps me establish in my mind, all right, so this is why. How do I tailor that to fit my why, my purpose? What am I doing? So always the student, man. That's what I say.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. I say that there's a learning opportunity in everything, right?
Even
One
terrible
of
stuff.
every terrible. One of my management philosophies is that there's a we're going to make mistakes. We're human, right? We're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
Mistakes, we don't try to make mistakes, but we learn from them, right?
Yep.
So you learn from your mistakes. You don't repeat it. As bad as that class was, I mean, it was a bad class. I did learn there were a couple of takeaways that we did.
Yeah.
Once we got off that static line and we start working drills where it's more one-on-one, that's where I started learning, right?
Yeah.
When I started going through things, there were times, he cut drawing from my holster. He shaved, like I forget what it was. It was like 9/10 of a second off of my draw. And it's like, I still remember that instruction. And it's like, and it drove him nuts because at the time, my support hand, my front, my left trigger finger was basically in front of the trigger guard, drove
Hmm.
him nuts,
Yeah.
drove him nuts. Um, and then it was funny is I don't shoot like that anymore because he explains like I get people doing that. He goes, but let's move your grip a little bit. You know, now do this. And then what do you know? Hey, my shot started tightening up.
Yeah.
He changed my grip around. So I learned so much from him that it was, once I got to that point.
Well,
But
did you notice one thing? And this is what I'll say, and I hope people try this out. Try it out just for poops and giggles,
yeah,
and see how much looser your support hand is because of that.
yeah,
And then try to
yeah,
tighten it. Like try to tighten it, and you'll see that you're really straining because you've got that finger out here instead of
yep,
down here, where you can just squeeze it together with your
yeah.
forearms versus gripping it.
And that's, I mean, and that I learned that was huge for me.
Yeah.
Um, so those are things that and no matter how bad something is, you can still learn something.
Yeah.
And you might have to look for that lesson,
Yeah.
but
And you
it's
should.
there.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should, no matter what. Like even bad leadership, like me growing up in the military, that's what kind of molded my leadership is seeing the bad and then seeing the good and putting the good stuff that I liked in my leadership toolbox and taking the bad stuff that I didn't like and putting them in my toolbox. Why? Because then when I open it up, I'm gonna see it and I'm gonna be like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I
Yeah.
like this. So how do I make this better so I can put that as a positive thing? And that's what you do. You have to self-evaluate. You have to get in your own brain and tell yourself, hey, look, in order for me to become better, whether it's at shooting, whether it's getting more training, whether it's, taking care of yourself. I mean, I'm having to go through those things as well. Self-evaluation. And you have to be honest. You can't
Yeah.
just, lie to yourself and say, oh no, I'm good. I'm good to go. You have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Ask the question.
Yep.
Well, it's funny. I love the whole thing. I have a dumb question, and I I usually joke around with people that ask that. I go, well, look, there's no dumb questions, but there are a lot of inquisitive idiots. Right? And they'll stop there and think about that for a second. I'm like, no, just ask the question. No matter how, if you have a question that's a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
There's something you did not get. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. You did not get something. This is the opportunity to correct that.
Exactly.
Ask the question. Always ask the question.
Yep.
So,
because you never know. It may be something that they may have an answer for, but nobody's really brought up, but can help somebody else.
Exactly. I remember in college, we had this one professor. Totally, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was like the best programmer for this thing, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't teach to save his life. And we're sitting there in the class like, oh, well, as a class, we actually learned that if we asked questions, he would focus on that one student, and the rest of us started learning. So I remember we were all sitting there talking one time. So we actually chose one person in the class that, it's your turn this class. So that person would sit there in the class. He would say something, and they would go, "Why?" That's all they do. Why? I don't understand that. Why?
Yeah.
And then he would focus on that person, and we're all taking our notes, right?
Okay.
We started learning. It's so weird that we had to do, as a class, we figured that out from the instructor, how to,
Right.
But that why is important for, like you said, not just for you, but for someone else.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, anyways, man, I know we've been recording for a little over an hour, and
just a little bit.
It's getting to be 6 o'clock your term, so I'm sure you're probably wanting to get back to your family. So I like to wrap things up with a speed round, just to kind of loosen things up.
Sure.
So it's just 5 questions. 4 of them are this or that, and then 1 thinking question.
Okay.
So 9mm or 45 ACP?
Dude, 9mm all day long.
All day long.
All day long. More rounds, round count. That's what matters.
More round count.
Yeah.
Pump action shotgun or over and under?
Oh, I'll go pump. Just because I'm used to it.
Because you're used to it?
Yeah.
It's funny. We were talking offline about that 870 Wingmaster video. That was literally my first gun when I was a kid.
Wow.
I learned off a pump action shotgun.
Yeah.
So for hearing protection.
Okay.
Earmuffs or earplugs?
Both.
Both. There you go.
The reason why is because I've been through a ton of explosions. Believe it or not, I have a hearing aid. So I'm over 40 with a hearing aid. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah. My wife just says I just don't listen to her, but it's really just a hearing problem.
Well, my wife will say the same thing too, because she knows I'm not actually listening to her. Something else is going on with the hearing aid because I'm watching YouTube or something else.
Yeah. So 5.56 or 7.62?
Oh man, you're talking about 51 or 39?
51. NATO cartridges.
308.
308 all day, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because it's a hitter, man. I like 5.56 because, like, we'll just put it to an end of world. Something happens here in the U.S. What's going to be the most common calibers? 9mm and 5.56. 223. Of course, I'm gonna have an AR.
Yeah.
You won't see me running like 6.8 or anything crazy like that.
because 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah. Anything where 450 none of that.
No. Yeah. No.
I'll just keep the.
Yep. Yeah. And then for your final question, if you could have any machine gun that has ever existed, just one.
Okay.
You could have any one machine gun that has ever existed. Which one would you want?
So are we talking belt fit? Or are we talking about?
Doesn't matter.
Ooh.
It's a machine gun, full auto.
Oh, that's so tough.
I know. That's why it's the last question.
Because I fired so many. You got the M138, You got the Mark 19. I mean, I like putting explodey things on targets. We'll go Mark 19. I like the M138 or the Gatlin, but yeah, that Dylan
There you
arrow
go.
is nice, but explodey things on target, that's really nice,
Things,
especially in the
things,
mountains. I
there
know
you
from
go.
experience.
So thanks so much for taking
Yeah,
time to talk to me tonight. Tell the audience where they can reach you because you have a YouTube channel.
I
And for
do.
everybody that's watching or listening, I will have the links down in the description for you. So if you're listening to this on the audio side, don't try to write this stuff down. Just come back and
Yep.
click the link in the description. But how do people get in touch with you? Because you have YouTube, you
I
have
have
Instagram.
YouTube. I have IG. I've got a Twitter. I've got Facebook, but I think it's like they make you like put a name in there. So I had to put like a fake name kind of thing
Yeah.
in there just to make the accounts link. But the link tree, I'll give you the link tree and then you can
Okay.
put that in there and then they can just hit everything. But
Yep.
mainly Instagram. That's kind of been my focus is IG, and then I'm starting to kind of branch out to these other things. But angry_Sarge, this logo
Awesome.
right here, that's what it looks
There you
like.
go.
If you see that, that's me. Um,
Got to have the
YouTube,
nods on there.
yes, yes. I only have 14s, but I ran 31s for a long time, so that's why they kind of stuck and stayed with it. So eventually 31s. We'll see how this whole YouTube affiliate
There you go.
thing happens. So, but yeah, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have an email, angrysargeg01@gmail.com. So if you really need to reach me and you
Awesome.
can't find me, I can get you my link tree and you can subscribe, follow, share, whatever you want to do. But please,
Awesome.
I'm just a dude, humble guy. I appreciate any and all support that I get, and I do respond to comments. I mean, I missed one. I'll tell you, what was it? 8 or so weeks ago, I missed a comment. I just went back and responded today, and that dude was happy that I responded. So yeah,
That's
I'll catch it, and I try to make sure I keep up with the community. I also have a Discord, so that will be in the link tree as well. If you want to come over to our Discord, we discuss builds, we discuss a lot of bit of everything except the politics.
yeah.
To kind of keep those out. So if you're into politics, plenty of other places you can go. You don't want to come to my Discord because they'll be like, we're not talking about it. So
Yeah, and that's the thing is because I just joined your Discord today,
yeah,
and I was out there looking around, and man, second I joined, man, everybody was like, "Hey,"
yeah,
um, and then I
yeah.
was looking around. You have troubleshooting. You got all kinds of things there. It's
Yep. And we do video games too. Like I play Call of Duty. I've got some other guys that play Call of Duty and some other stuff. So
awesome.
we try to keep it friendly and open. And if you want to come in there and ask a question or you need help or anything like that, you're needing question, you have a question about gear, you want to try to set your stuff up. I mean, that's what we're here for is to help with that knowledge. And I'll tell you, there's really only maybe one tactical guy on there that knows this stuff, but the rest of the guys they can help you with build. They're builders. They're old MGB crew, P80 Ralph crew, all that. So we're all kind of
Awesome.
meshed as one into that Discord. So
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for
yeah,
taking time
no,
out of your day to talk to us.
thank you for having me, man. This is different.
Yeah, man.
I haven't ever done not alive, if that makes sense. So this is this is a different take on it, but
Yeah,
no,
it's a little different doing the recordings just because you don't have that audience over there.
right. I'm not
But
having to do this. All right,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to keep up with the comments because it's crazy right now.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, but thank you so much for jumping in, man. It's been great
Yeah.
having you.
No, I appreciate it. It was good to meet you, and this whole thing was pretty cool. I was kind of nervous about it. I'm not gonna lie because eh, usually I have questions already done for my guests, so we kind of have a format that we follow. But this was a lot easier. You kind of briefed me ahead of time on what we were going to talk about. So that was cool. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
And obviously, I'm going to check out more on the channel. My guys, they already know you, and the ones that don't are going to start coming over to see you. So,
Awesome.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for checking out the video. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you got something from it. I hope that I was able to provide some kind of value that you'd want to come check me out.
Absolutely. And we're definitely going to tell everybody and make sure everybody gets over to your content.
Appreciate it.
Man, I had a super time talking to Sarge. We talked about a half hour before, then we just got talking. Like, man, we better start hitting record or else we'll be here all night. Recorded that podcast, and man, I think we talked for about an hour and a half afterwards. And man, my respect for that guy went through the absolute roof. He's a super amazing guy. He's got a great community. I love going out to his Discord channel. You know, I joined that Discord channel right before the podcast to go check it out. And I got welcomed. Like, people were like, hey, welcome. And I was looking around at people helping people with their builds, troubleshooting, all kinds of stuff. So definitely, if you are in the builder community, you're going to want to check out his Discord channel because you'll get so much help there. Super amazing people. And, well, he's got some great content on Instagram, and he's starting to come out with some content on YouTube. So you're definitely going to want to watch what he's got going on.